So let me talk about this first. And it's something that needs to be discussed heavily. Okay. This is a family here. So whenever we have, like, you know, multiple cards, court cards of the same suit, it's usually some type of a family situation. Okay. So we have here Knight of Wands, somebody who's being very, very reckless, evasive with their responsibilities. They kind of go through life as an adrenaline junkie, you know, like act first, ask questions later. We have the Queen of Wands, which is like the matriarch of the family, somebody who's trying to settle down, trying to stabilize his or her life, trying to do the right thing, trying to take care of everybody. And then we also have here the Page of Wands, which is like a younger energy that's very attention seeking, gets into trouble, evasive when it comes to responsibilities, and somebody who's not very truthful. There are some family issues creeping into the picture for this month. If you have family members that are fire signs, so Sagittarius, Aries, Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but either way, I feel like this is a family situation where he says this, she says this, and then we don't really know who to trust. And I also feel like for some of you, there is, it feels to me like there is either a patriarch or a matriarch at stake who's trying to decide, you know, like who has like some money, and they're trying to decide, like they might have inheritance, they might have physical property, like assets, cars, houses, land, stocks, bonds. And then they might have just actual physical money, and they're trying to decide among their children, who should I give this money to? And I feel like everyone is scrambling for this one person's attention. And this one person is thinking more about the younger generation. So for example, if it's a grandma that you're dealing with and you're just like, why did she just overlook me? You know, does she not like me? It's not because of that. It's because she's thinking more about the younger kids and whether or not they have enough. So I feel like there is this energy here about everybody scrambling for a fixed piece of the pie, and it can create a lot of tension in the relationships between the children. It can create a lot of tension in the relationship between that family dynamics. So I do see a lot of people in blended families dealing with step parents, step siblings, step children, and, you know, they're misbehaving, right? But people are misbehaving, but it's almost like your role, because it's complicated, you know, with blended families. Everyone's role is very, it's not clearly defined. So on the one hand, you feel like I should do this, I should, you know, put these people in their place, but you feel like it's not really your place and you don't want to step on anybody's toes. And then likewise, you could be a father, you know, dealing with rambunctious children. And I'm sensing there's also, you know, movement, like wanting to change house, wanting to change location, wanting to do all of these things. But you might have, you know, shared custody and you can't really make a move. So it's very frustrating. It's very family oriented. And the family unit is incredibly unstable. It seems like there are too many people involved, too many mothers, too many children, too many fathers, too much energy contained in a very, very small environment. Tempers are flaring. And I also feel as well, for those of you who are not dealing with this in terms of blended families, I feel like you're trying to change your location, but there are restrictions. So there, you could be locked into a lease. You might have roommates and they're not ready to move when you're ready to move. And so you're waiting on decisions. You're waiting on things to finalize. You're waiting for somebody to give you a green light. And there is movement happening, people moving in, people moving out. And there's logistical concerns that needs to be worked out when it comes to the housing situation. So already I'm seeing a lot of that. And I believe, I forgot the placement. I believe this was here and then this was here. Sorry if I'm misplacing them, okay? So there are a lot of things here. I believe it's like this. Yeah. So sorry, Libras. So there are a lot of things here that denotes to me like your sense of stability when it comes to your own foundation, where you need to be, who's there for you, where is home, where can you feel safe, where can you feel, you know, loved and needed and wanted. All of these things are security oriented issues. It's a major theme for this month. It's a major theme. And so I feel like, you know, a lot of the times, Libra, I feel like you don't really emphasize, or you don't really place enough importance on how your free will affects situation. And with Aquarius, you know, they're so adamant about exerting their free will in their environment to try to change things. And they do it in a very dogmatic way. So their energy is like all over the spread. And then I don't know how Geminis do it. I'm not very familiar with the way that they act, but I feel like with Geminis, they know how to navigate, you know, the human interactions in order to get what they want. They know how to navigate those things, and they're very observant. So they know who to avoid, who to ask for help. But usually they do ask other people for help in order to get where they need to go. And they're very, very good and, you know, diplomatic about that. Whereas for you guys, I feel almost like what will be will be. What other people decide, that's what I'm going to go with. So rather than exercising, you know, your own free will, staying ahead of the curve and really going out and kind of like making these decisions on your own, I feel like this spread is more about inaction. It's about lack of activity, lack of momentum, lack of free will, lack of like accountability. And I don't like to see this for you guys. I've seen it for a few months, and I don't like this energy, because when we lack accountability and decisions are made for us, and then, you know, a few months down the line, we're not where we need to be, we blame other people, we blame other actors, we blame our circumstances on other things rather than taking accountability for our own actions and for getting us where we need to go. So I feel like that's the recurring theme here. And so once again, you really need to exercise your free will. You need to be a little bit more proactive, you know, about what do I need to change in my life? What areas am I not happy with? Is it the living situation? It very well could be here with the Four of Wands. Is it the family unit? Family is definitely supportive, but they're coddling you, they're babying you, they're treating you almost like children who can't, you know, take care of yourself. And that energy can really hold you back from becoming the person that you're meant to be. You know, if they're like constantly, oh, it's okay, or it's not your fault, you embody that energy where you go into the world and you feel like you're like behind the curve or behind your peers when it comes to doing things. And you're also, you know, coddled so much where you're behind the curve when it comes to taking accountability of your actions, taking care of yourself, being independent, being strong, being able to, you know, get yourself out of trouble. So if someone constantly comes to our rescue, right, they're not really allowing us to critically think our way out of danger, think our way out of trouble. They're not really allowing us an opportunity to exercise our own free will, our own critical thinking skills. So I feel like that's what's really happening here. On the one hand, family is a great support system, but on the other hand, it's preventing you from being you. It's really downplaying your own sense of individuality. And I feel like this collective energy, it's like everyone is, you know, loyal to one person. Everyone does what that one person says, possibly a very strong matriarch in the family, and no one is able to take care of themselves. No one is able to stand up and say, no, you're wrong, even when the person is wrong, because there's some fear here. There's some herd, like bandwagoning type of energy I feel in this spread. So let me just talk about, you know, let's look behind that energy and talk about the individual spread, okay? Or I'm sorry, the individual cards. So this is overall about wealth, generating wealth, doing things so that we can become very independent. This is the independent woman or man, because the cards are not they're not gender specific. So this is kind of like, what can we do in order to create wealth for ourselves, in order to be independent, to be able to take care of ourselves, to be able to, you know, have the leisure time and not be a slave to money, not be so insecure about our job, where our job is going to take us, whether or not we're going to lose our job. And when it shows up in the reverse position, I feel like you're at a point where you understand how important it is. You're looking at other people that have all of these things, you know, that have that stability. And you're just like, I want to be like that. And you're also looking at people who are very, very materialistic. They have a lot of wealth. They have a lot of prosperity, but they're not very happy. And so you're looking at both sides of the story, or both sides of the equation, and you're just like, how do I reach that middle ground? How do I have enough without being a slave to money? So I feel like there are major themes here about, you know, wanting to be self-employed, wanting to really looking into how can I make money work for me? How can I, you know, have control over the work that I do, so that I'm not constantly under somebody's supervision, somebody else's watch, and I'm not able to exert my independence. So I feel like many of you are flirting with big ideas here about, you know, self-employment, which is very, very good. I feel like the problem, though, coming into the picture is this, the Page of Wands. People telling you that you can't really do it, you know, like the naysayers. But also, it almost seems to me like whatever it is, whatever plans you have, whatever thing that you're trying to implement, the market seems to me to be saturated with the same people, the same industry. It feels to me like there are too many players. How am I going to be able to stand out? And so one thing you might want to look into, and I know I say this a lot in the readings, and it seems like very flippant, but I don't mean it to be flippant. Change your geographical location. If this is something you're passionate about and you feel like you have something to offer, but the market where you are in your vicinity is just saturated, change your location. Figure out where you can go so that you have that little pocket where you can make it your own. If you strongly feel you have something to offer, take the steps, you know, be a little bit daring, be a little bit gutsy, and take that first step, because I feel like you're contemplating, but you're not, you know, thinking, but you're not really making a move here. And you do have some good ideas. You do have some good ideas. What comes through here with the Seven of Swords is, I do feel like there has been some type of evasive energy when it comes to your work environment. It's under a Pentacles card, okay? Some people might have recently left the work environment, and they left with a lot of unanswered questions. They left with a lot of cases, workloads hanging. They left with a lot of unanswered questions. They left mainly because they saw all the inefficiencies in the work environment, and you're kind of wondering, like, well, why did they leave? If they left, you know, I feel like it's somebody that you really looked up to, you really admired. And I have here a fire sign. So this is a Sagittarius, an Aries, or a Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Someone spirited, someone fair, someone who's has a really good heart, you know, helps you when you need help, someone who doesn't abuse their power. So I feel like you had a coworker or a supervisor or somebody that you really admire, and they left mainly because they're not happy. They have a lot of skills. They have a lot of other things that they can do. So I feel like they're scanning the horizon and they're looking for more. And so their presence left a little bit of a vacuum, and it also makes you feel like, well, if they left, maybe I should leave too. But you also have to understand, their reason for leaving is going to be different from you. So if you're following in their footsteps and trying to, you know, create an opportunity for yourself to leave, is that really the right thing to do? Do we follow in other people's footsteps, or do we carve a path for ourselves? Okay. So I feel like they left because of some things that they anticipate will happen in the future. and you're trying to figure out what that is. And so you're feeling very, very unstable in the current work environment. And then on top of that, if you have currently a very strong supervisor who's like monitoring your every step, and they're seeing you like this, you know, rather than, you know, building wealth, they're seeing you like this, where you're not focused, you're scattered, or you're not really contributing equally the same way that other people are contributing. You want to be very careful. Okay, so I feel like you have a no nonsense type of a supervisor or a new boss in the picture, and they're taking notice of everything. So what I mentioned before. And the last thing that I want to end up with here is I feel once again that energy about trying to fit people in the mold and trying to, you know, like seeing the best in somebody. Someone who's not right for you, who's a little bit flaky, not as dependable. They're very sexy and exciting, and they can be, you know, a source of excitement in your life. But I feel like you're trying to put them into a mold. You're trying to fit them into this group, this category where they don't really belong. And they're not going to stay around forever. So I feel like there's this cycle about you going back to it and then being sorely disappointed, because being sorely disappointed and also growing a little bit resentful of the other person, but they didn't ask to be put in that position. So there are a lot of things here that we need to really re-examine, and I feel like it's a lot deeper than the surface. And I also feel like this collective energy, you know, is it really hurting you, or is it appropriate for you? On the one hand, it brings about harmony, and it brings about people, it brings about friendships, and, you know, everyone's on the same page. But is it also hindering your individual development? Is it also hindering your ability to think and act on your own? Because I feel like that's what's happening. So don't worry about what other people expect from you. Try to do the right thing. Don't try to appease other people. Do what you want and stand up for what you believe in.